Good evening, welcome to Prime Time News here on TV1. I am Srilankanbeauty bringing you the news for News First, where the people come first. Before we get into the news today, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Jatika Janabalawege activist who was hospitalized following Sunday's protest dies in hospital. Another protester is in critical condition.
සාමකාමී උද්ඝෝෂණ වලට මිනිස්සුන්ට පහර දීලා තුවාල කරලා ඕනියන් තත්ත්වයටපත් කරලා නම් ආණ්ඩු කරන්න යන්න වෙන්නේ. අපි හිතනවා ලෝකේ ඒකාධිපතින්ගේ හැම ඒකාධිපතියෙක්ම ගිය ගමන් මගේ ඕටත් යන්න වේවි කියලා.
President's political decisions are not the decisions of the SLPP, says Ranjit Bandara.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා දේශපාලන වශයෙන් ගනු ලබන තීන්දුව తీරන අපේ පක්ෂ තීන්දුව తీරන්නේ.
Wasantha Mudalige and 61 others released on bail. Mayantha says he has decided to step down from the post of Committee of Public Finance Chairman.
කණ්ඩායමේ කපිතාන් කියන දේ අහන්න නැතුව තනියම ඒ බෝලේ දාන්න ගියොත් මුළු කණ්ඩායමම පෙරදෙනවා කියන එක එදා අපේ අප්පච්චි ගාමිණී මැතිතුමා අපිට කිව්වා.
World Bank's IFC to provide Sri Lanka with $400 million cross-currency swap facility to help fund essential imports.
And now in your top story, Nivitikala Pradesh Sabha candidate of the Jatika Janabalawege Nimal Amarsiri, who was injured during Sunday's protest in Colombo and was admitted to hospital, died while being treated at the ICU of the Colombo National Hospital. Another individual who is also in critical condition is being treated in the intensive care unit.
The Jatika Janabalawege marched in protest in Colombo on Sunday against the government's attempts to suspend elections and undermine democracy. In order to disperse the protesters, the Sri Lanka police fired tear gas and water cannons twice. 29 people who were injured in the melee were admitted to the Colombo National Hospital and one of them died in the ICU on Monday. The deceased was identified as Nivitikala Pradesh Sabha candidate Nimal Amarsiri. 60-year-old Nimal Amarsiri was a former administrative officer at the Sri Lanka State Plantations Corporation.
The Ranil Wickremesinghe-led government must be held responsible for this death. We did not go to confront the police. We were representing the people's right to vote. When the people's rights are taken away, we cannot turn a blind eye to that. We protested. Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to protect his totalitarian rule without showing any remorse to human life. We don't believe that democracy should be achieved by losing more lives. If the government is toying with the lives, this is a serious issue. We express our regret over the matter. We expressed our condolences to the deceased and his family. He was protesting for democracy, for the right of the people, and for the right to build a governance preferred by the people. We will continue this struggle to achieve democracy and secure the election. This is a warning to the president and the government to stop their repression. If the government has reached a level of beating up people and leading them to their deaths, they will face the same fate of all dictators. Ranil Wickremesinghe is using this post of president that he was given and is acting in an enraged manner. We will opt to legal action.
ජනාධිපතිකම අතේ තියාගෙන වියරුවෙන් කටයුතු කරන පටන් ගන්න තියෙනවා. අපි කල්පනා කරමින් ඉන්නවා ඒ සම්බන්ධ නීති ක්‍රම මාර්ග ගන්න.
මේ මරණයට හේතුවක් තාම කරලා තියෙනවා මොකක්ද හේතුව?
හේතුව තාම අපි දන්නේ මොකද?
We are not aware of that. The post-mortem must take place. He was a healthy individual. We believe that death may have been a result of the attack. We did not see any external injuries. However, he had breathing difficulties.
නමුත් හුස්ම ගැනීමේ අපහසුතාව තදින්ම තිබුණා.
දැන් මේ යට විතර ඔබතුමාලා කියන ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයේ ගන්න මරණ කීයක් දෙන්නේ?
අපි ආණ්ඩුවෙන් අහන්නේ ඒක. ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී වෙන
That is what we would be asking the government as well. The government must pose that question to Ranil. What we want is democracy without any deaths or having to take it to the streets.
අපි පාඩ බහින්නත් ඕනේ නැතුව ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී අපට දෙන්න.
The spokesperson for the Sri Lanka police elaborated on the incidents.
Protesters were gathered at the Vihara Mahadevi Park and its environs. Sri Lanka police did not obstruct them at that time. They also gathered at Lipton Circus. Sri Lanka police did not obstruct them there as well. However, they attempted to march to Union Place and the Sri Lanka police did not allow that because it was illegal. Sri Lanka police explained to them that they did not have permission for a march and there would be obstructions to assembly. However, as they continued to march forward by obstructing the police, tear gas and water cannons were fired. No baton charge or assault took place as claimed. There was shoving and due to that, 5 police officers were injured. They are being treated at the police hospital.
තුවාල සිදුවලා තියෙනවා. ඔවුන් මේ වන විට පොලිස් රෝහලට ඇතුළත් කරලා තියෙනවා. අධිකාර සඳහා මේ සිදුවීම සමගම
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has launched an investigation with regard to the incident where 28 people were injured after tear gas and water were fired on a protest despite no court order being issued prohibiting a protest march in Kompanavidya, Colombo too. The Human Rights Commission had informed the country's police chief to submit a report on the incident within 24 hours. International media also reported on Sunday's protest in Sri Lanka. AP reported that the police in Sri Lanka on Sunday fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse protesters angry over a decision to postpone local elections after the government said it cannot finance them because of the country's crippling economic crisis. This is how BBC reported the protest.
Police in the Sri Lankan capital Colombo have used tear gas and water cannon to disperse a protest against the postponement of local elections. The government says it couldn't fund them because of the financial crisis.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa commented on the attack on Sunday's protest during a rally in Kuliyapitiya.
It was reported Nimal Amarasri from Nivitigala had died following the brutal and barbaric attack on the protest that took place demanding for an election. The government led by the president must be held responsible for this. As a political party and as a political force, we condemn it and we will continue with our struggle to secure an election. MP Dalasalaha Peruma published a press release on behalf of the Freedom People's Congress with regard to the attack on the protest staged by the Jatika Janabalavege yesterday. He states that peaceful citizens and populist parties should cast all differences aside and in the name of democracy should take every step to stop state-sponsored suppression. He continues to state that if people fail to unite with a common goal, another chapter in the Sri Lankan history being written in blood will be inevitable.
A situation where people who demand for their right to vote are attacked with tear gas, water and batons has never been seen in this country before. Whether the election will be held or not is being decided by an almighty individual. Where the election will be held or not, or if it is being held, when, and if the funds required for it could be allocated are decided by that one person. There is no specific timeline. A dictatorship is a litmus test as a democratic society. The people's power is displayed at that time. That is when people could make a decision about the government. The initial experiment is this sad situation. This makes the citizens of the country slaves. As humble servants, no matter what they do in the parliament, we will not accept it.
මේ තත්ත්වය අපි කීකරු සේවකයන් හැටියට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මොන සංදර්ශන කළත් මේවා අපි පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ.
The SLPP said that delaying elections is not its position.
We are against delaying the election. We are always of the stance that the elections should be held. We supported in electing the president to prevent the nation from being destroyed. But the political decisions made by the president are not the decisions of our party. We have independently expressed our party's opinion to the public. As a party, we regret the water cannons and tear gas attacks on the JVP protest held yesterday. We express our regret to the party leader and to everyone who attended the protest. Sri Lanka's parliamentary speaker Mahinda Yapa Abewardena said that his response to the request made by the Election Commission for intervention to secure the funds required for the local government election will be directed to the Finance Minister. On Friday, the 24th of March, Sri Lanka's Election Commission, in a letter to the Speaker, sought intervention to secure the funds required for the local government election.
PAFRL says a proposal to release funds allocated in the budget for the elections must be passed in Parliament.
According to the President and according to the law, financial powers are vested in the Parliament of this country. Therefore, we would like to propose to all political parties to pass a resolution to release the 10 billion allocated for the election from the 2023 budget. The finance minister has been undermining the power of the parliament and has been continuously delaying the provision of funds for the election. So far, multiple factions of the ruling party and the opposition have reached a common consensus to hold this election. Therefore, we do not see it as a difficult task to pass a resolution by a majority in the parliament.
බහුතරයකගෙන් යෝජනාවක් සම්මත කිරීම අසීරු කටයුත්තක් හැටියට අපි දකින්නේ නැහැ.
62 individuals, including the convener of the Inter-University Student Federation, Vasanta Mudalige, student monks and others who were arrested for entering the Education Ministry, were released on bail today.
62 individuals, including convener of the Inter-University Students Federation, Vasanta Mudalige, student monks and others, were arrested and remanded after they allegedly trespassed into the Ministry of Education, demanding the reopening of the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. They were produced to the Kadwala Chief Magistrate on Monday and were released on personal bail of 100,000 rupees each.
A series of charges were put forward for illegally entering the Education Ministry and causing property damage. Charges were presented under the Penal Code and the Public Property Act. Though there were around 1,000 public sector employees at the Education Ministry, there is no evidence to prove that such offences were committed. What we did was walk in through the open gates and sit at the reception on the 3rd floor. While the 60 or 70 of us were waiting to make the request to reopen the university, the riot control unit, together with the police, came and attacked us. They dragged away the clergy. They went inside the buses when there was no media and attacked us. After doing all of that, the Minister of Education says something else. He dodges questions. We will come back to get a reply to our questions. We have to.
A silent protest was staged opposite the Kadwala Court complex this morning. The Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka, which was closed down since the 19th of December, was reopened for first-year students on Monday. Venerable Professor Nilwe Sumanamansatero, the Vice-Chancellor of the university, said that exams for 4th-year students will commence on the 3rd of March. The Thero said the university will be open to other students after the April holidays.
Examinations will be conducted for both first-year and fourth-year students. Once those examinations are over, hostels will be opened for second and third-year students. First and fourth-year students can use the coming 2 weeks to use the library, talk to lecturers regarding any subject matter and hand in their assignments.
Parliamentarian Mantha Disanayake said that he will step down from the post of chairman of the Committee on Public Finance. He made the announcement during a press briefing at the office of the opposition leader in Colombo and noted that he does not hope to hold any position without a common agreement.
Recently, the ruling party proposed SJB MP Mayantha Disanayake to the post of chairman of the Committee on Public Finance, while the opposition had proposed SJB MP Dr. Harsha De Silva for the same post. Speaking to reporters in Colombo, Mayantha Disanayake said he does not wish to hold any position without majority agreement.
I always acted according to my conscience. Therefore, when I was asked last week whether I would accept these duties and responsibilities, I said that if there is a common agreement, I will accept it. I discussed it with our leader and opposition leader Sajith Premadasa this morning, and I said we need to come to a common agreement. And thus I have decided to resign as the chairman of the Committee on Public Finance. I remind you that no matter what the speaker says, the listener should always listen with common sense. I never made a deal with the ruling party and never talked to the president about getting this chairmanship. The first meeting was held for a short period of 10 to 15 minutes. I also thought that some bills would be presented. That's why I sat in the meeting. I also made statements in that meeting. Only the members of the government have come. The members of the opposition have not come. That's why I thought we didn't come to a common agreement. You cannot play in the team without listening to the captain of that team. You can know yourself, but you can't say what you think. It's better if you throw a fast ball instead of a spin. My late father Gamani Disanayake always said that if you bowl without listening to the captain of the team, the entire team would be let down.
The group of parliamentarians representing the Samagi Jana Balawegaya met at the opposition leader's office this afternoon. Following the meeting, the MPs expressed their opinion on the chairmanship of the Public Finance Committee.
අපි ආයිත් යෝජනා කරන්නේ මේ ආචාර්ය හර්ෂද සිල්වා.
දැන් ඔබතුමා තමයි මේ මයන්ත දිසානායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමාට ඉවත් වෙන්න කියලා බලපෑම් කරා කියලා කියනවා දැන් ආණ්ඩුවේ කණ්ඩායම.
බලපෑම් කරුවේ මම එතුමාගේ
I never influenced him. I only asked him. Only because I am the chief opposition whip and he represents the SJB. So he cannot take up responsibilities without asking us.
අපෙන් අහන්න නැතුව ඒ වගේ වකී බාර ගන්න බෑනේ.
ඉතින් ඔබතුමාලා නොදැනුවත් තමයි මේක උනේ නේ.
අපි දන්නේ.
අපි සූදානම් 100% සූදානම්.
We are ready. We are 100% ready. We are ready to take up this responsibility. My name was proposed by the opposition. Lakshman Kiriyalla showed me the documents. The minute states that I was appointed as well, and from there something has gone wrong. However, what's gone is gone. Let's see what the future holds. If it is given to me, I will do my best. If not, there is no problem either.
දෙනවා නම් දෙන්න දුන්නොත් කරනවා නැත්නම් තියාගන්න කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. එච්චරයි.
The United National Party also commented on the matter.
Now what did Sadit Premadasa do when Mayantha Dissanayaka was appointed as the chairman of the Committee on Public Finance? He slowly avoided it. Why? Because in order to get Harsha De Silva appointed, he will have to assist him. He is playing another game on the side so that Harsha De Silva will be benefited. He sends a message through Lakshman Kiriyalla saying that it is a party's decision for him to step down from the post. Because Mayantha did not accept this, he even assumed his duties on the first day. Now he sends the message through Kiriyalla. This is Sajit's two-faced policy.
දැන් කිරියල්ල දාලා කියනවා මයන්තර අයිමියන් කියලා මෙන්න සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසගේ දෙබිඩි පිළිවෙත.
The International Finance Corporation, also known as IFC, the World Bank's investment arm, said it will provide Sri Lanka with a $400 million cross-currency swap facility to help fund essential imports. To support Sri Lanka amid an ongoing economic crisis, the International Financing Corporation is providing a cross-currency swap facility to 3 of the country's leading national banks that deal with over 30% of Sri Lanka's remittances and exports. To support the country, the IFC facility will provide $400 million over 1 year to Commercial Bank of Ceylon, Nations Trust Bank and Sampath Bank to help facilitate imports of essential goods, food, medicine, fertilizers, most of which are traded in US dollars. The facility will further support the bank's financing of exports of goods and services for their clients while allowing them to make USD-denominated debt repayments. Sanath Manatunga, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Commercial Bank of Ceylon, said, "This new facility will help us deploy our foreign currencies more efficiently while lowering our foreign currency exposure, resulting in effective risk mitigation." Chief Executive Officer of Nations Trust Bank, Hemantha Gunatilaka, said, "IFC's support through the cross-currency swap facility is timely given the liquidity stress faced by the industry and the overall economy. This transaction will strengthen our hand in our efforts to increase foreign currency lending to our key client groups and thereby support economic revival across key industry sectors." Managing Director of Sampath Bank, Nanda Fernando, said the facility provided by the IFC comes at a juncture where the Sri Lankan economy is facing a challenging time. The transaction will enable Sampath Bank to better manage our foreign currency holding by borrowing at lower rates and manage our foreign currency exposure while facilitating foreign currency lending to our customers across the whole economy. Sri Lanka has cut a requirement for Commercial Bank to surrender 25% of export proceeds and remittances to 15% effective from the 27th of February. The central bank said in a letter to chief executive officers of banks that the move will help market-driven foreign exchange activities. Economists point out that these measures would allow to increase dollar liquidity in the local market and would also bring stability to the rupee currency. However, the private sector has been forced to secure loans from the World Bank's IFC as the IMF is yet to release funds of its extended fund facility to Sri Lanka.
An event to mark the first-year anniversary of the Biden administration's Indo-Pacific strategy and for the launch of the publication A Shared Vision for the Indo-Pacific Implications for South Asia was held in Colombo earlier today. US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, expressed the following views at the event.
It's also important to keep in mind that what happens in the Indo-Pacific can impact the entire globe. And this particularly applies to Sri Lanka, which, as we all know, sits next to some of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Now, in addition to this month being the one-year anniversary of the IPS, it is also the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the United States and Sri Lanka. Earlier this month, one of the State Department's highest-ranking officials, Undersecretary for Political Affairs Victoria Newland, visited Colombo for discussions in which we reinforced our commitment as a bilateral partner across a broad spectrum of shared interests. Freedom of navigation allows Sri Lanka to effectively leverage its geostrategic positions and has helped the Colombo port to become one of the busiest in the region. And that's why the U.S.'s promotion of freedom of navigation helps support a free and open Indo-Pacific and directly aligns with Sri Lanka's interests. And we're also reminded that good economic governance and good political governance go hand in hand. So let me be clear, the U.S. is Sri Lanka's partner and stands with Sri Lanka as it navigates through this difficult time. And that's why the U.S. is fully committed to supporting Sri Lanka as you navigate the process of obtaining support from the IMF, and I hope that we can very quickly see a commitment on specific and credible financing assurances from all major countries invested in Sri Lanka's future to help Sri Lanka get back to the path to economic recovery. I would also note that while Sri Lanka's natural resources and entrepreneurial spirit create enormous economic potential, but to fully realize that potential, it's critical to have a business environment that is transparent and fully inclusive. Because beyond just the immediate economic recovery, the longer-term open investment climate will be key to lasting prosperity. As that growth continues through large-scale bilateral military exercises like CARAT and through events like this where we all come together to share information and ideas, I am confident we will see the emergence of a stronger and more resilient Sri Lanka that is increasingly capable of protecting its sovereignty and developing strong institutions that will enable prosperity for all Sri Lankan people.
Employees attached to the Ceylon Electricity Board protested opposite the CEB head office in Colombo against the increased electricity tariff and employee issues.
15 trade unions, including the Ceylon Electricity Board Employees Union, the Ceylon Electricity Board Technological Engineers and Superintendents Union, the CEB Technical Employees Union and the CEB Consumer Coordinator Union engaged in the protest. Among the demands by the electricity workers is to reintroduce the medical allowance, remove the salary anomalies and grant promotions to those who qualified for the promotion process. The electricity workers are engaged in the protest by reporting sick to work.
This electricity tariff hike was imposed on innocent people to give relief to the elite. There is no scientific base for this hike. The CEB can function without this unfair electricity tariff hike. 4 billion rupees can be saved if the employees' salaries are not drawn. So we will not draw our salaries. See if the CEB can function this way. Those in air-conditioned rooms have made their decisions and in the end have left these problems to 4.7 million electricity consumers. So once electricity consumers are burdened and the bills go unpaid and power supply is disconnected, the fight will be between the people and the CEB employees. That is why we are saying this will become a massive social problem.
Later, the group arrived at the Ceylon Electricity Board premises and engaged in a protest.
The employees of the Ceylon Electricity Board have their own privileges and their professional rights, and that is why they are demanding rights and fighting for our demands. We want to tell the authorities and the rulers of this country that we will never allow our rights to be curtailed and our demands to be eliminated. If these benefits are not provided, we will make sure they are.
A joint protest was staged against the unfair electricity tariff hike. Religious leaders, the collective of trade unions and mass organizations jointly staged this protest under the theme, loosely translated, that the people will not pay the tariff and will not allow authorities to disconnect the supply as well.
This has affected the power supply of 4 million innocent people. They only use 2 or 3 CFL bulbs, and only the iron is used as an electrical appliance just to iron the clothes of the children. They have increased the electricity tariff of such innocent people. We will stand with the 4 million people and we will refrain from paying electricity bills. We know that they are trying to make the CEB profitable and then sell it off. That is the ultimate goal of the government. This is the CEB's first hunt. The electricity tariff has been increased illegally. Now they are trying to purchase power as well. The Commission's permission is required if emergency power is to be purchased. Because if this is more than 25 megawatts, the approval of the Economic Committee is required. All these approvals are required, but they can't obtain it. There is no provision according to Section 43, so revoke this immediately.
News First with the people.
Now moving on with the news, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka in a statement called upon the President and the members of the Parliament to exercise self-restraint and to desist from making statements which will erode the confidence of the public in the legal system and undermine the independence of the judiciary, both of which would ultimately lead to a serious erosion of the rule of law. This is according to a statement issued by the Bar Council of the BASL, which has unanimously resolved to express its grave concern regarding the speech made by the President Ranil Wickremesinghe in Parliament on the 23rd of February 2023. The BASL Bar Council statement reads, "This decision to express grave concern regarding the President's statements, which pose a serious threat to the rule of law by a statement of the Bar Council, was unanimously adopted on a motion moved by the Deputy President's Counsel Anura Maddagoda. Several members of the Bar Council seconded the motion and no member spoke against it. The Deputy President of the BASL chaired the debate on the motion. As President's Counsel Salia Piris, the President of the BASL, recused himself when the motion was raised as an urgent matter at the meeting of the Bar Council." Now moving on with more news, a mega education fair organized by IDP Education under the theme, "If you have a way, we have a dream," was held in Colombo during the weekend. The event was attended by Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Paul Stevens. Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner, South Asia, Dr. Monica Kennedy, also graced the occasion.
40 education universities representing all states from Australia attended the education fair held in Colombo on Saturday, the 25th of February.
Australia and Sri Lanka have long enjoyed a very strong education partnership. This goes back even to the 1950s with the original Colombo plan, where Australia provided scholarships to Sri Lankan students. That was a groundbreaking initiative which continues to have a strong legacy even today. And since then, many Sri Lankan students, including many on scholarships, have studied in Australia.
A record of 1,211 students attended the event in Colombo.
The 7th annual tour of Jaffna, aimed at restoring the past and building the future, also dubbed Ride for Ceylon, will be flagged off next week, and the local and international riders met in Colombo on Sunday for their preparations.
Ride for Ceylon, a charity cycle ride through Sri Lanka, began in 2017 as Riders for Charity, and it has chosen to redevelop and expand the historic Green Memorial Hospital Manipai in the war-gutted Jaffna. The brainchild of a group of old boys of St. Thomas's College, the charity aims to rebuild lives and communities devastated by 3 decades of civil war. Thus, the idea of a 435-kilometer charity cycle ride from Colombo to Jaffna was born, and for the 7th edition of the ride, local and international cyclists taking part met in Colombo for a pre-ride event.
And special welcome to the riders. Some of them are returning for another 4 days of pain, and some of them are excited to be experiencing it for the first time.
The official jersey of Ride for Ceylon 2023 was also unveiled at the event, and riders and organizers were given an opportunity to discuss the route and understand what is in store for them for a period of 4 days. Ride for Ceylon is a 4-day, 475-kilometer bike ride and will take place from the 1st to the 4th of March 2023. Riders, based on their experience and riding speeds, will be divided into 3 groups. Each group will have a peloton ride captain. The ride starts in Arugambe on the southeastern edge of Sri Lanka and finishes in Manipai in the northern province, Jaffna. The ride is also supported by Sri Lanka's tourism sector to promote SOS Sri Lanka and attract tourists to Sri Lanka.
According to a report by The Hindu, a group of Indian business leaders have said it is still a good time to invest in Sri Lanka despite crushing economic meltdown and consequent political turmoil.
While acknowledging the many challenges facing the business community in Sri Lanka, the CEOs of Indian companies point to enormous scope for foreign direct investment in a host of sectors such as information technology, tourism and renewable energy. According to The Hindu, the Indian businessmen's optimism stems from their experience of doing business in Sri Lanka for decades in sectors spanning transportation, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics and technology. The president of the Indian CEO Forum, which includes leaders of nearly 70 companies, T.S. Prakash, said, despite the ups and downs in Sri Lanka, there is opportunity for investment.
A Sukanya-class offshore patrol vessel of the Indian Navy reached Sri Lanka on Monday and is expected to stay until the 1st of March.
The Indian naval ship Sukanya arrived in the port of Colombo on an official visit this morning. The visiting ship was welcomed by the Sri Lankan Navy in compliance with naval traditions. INS Sukanya is a 101-meter-long offshore patrol vessel manned by 106 crew members. The commanding officer of the ship, Commander Pranav Anand, called on the Commander Western Naval Area retired Admiral Suresh De Silva at the Western Naval Command headquarters this morning. Concluding her official visit, INS Sukanya will depart the island on the 1st of March and she is expected to engage in a passage exercise with a ship of the Sri Lankan Navy off Colombo.
Tens of thousands of people filled Mexico City's vast main plaza on Sunday to protest President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's electoral law changes they say threaten democracy and could make a return to the past. The plaza is normally thought to hold nearly 100,000 people, but many protesters who couldn't fit in the square spilled onto nearby streets. Huge crowds gathered in Mexico on Sunday to condemn government moves to shrink the electoral authority as a threat to democracy in what appeared to be the largest protest so far against President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's administration. Organizers said 500,000 people turned out in Mexico City, with video footage on social media showing the central Zocalo square filled with protesters who also spilled out into adjoining streets. One police officer nearby said he had heard a half a million figure, while others gave lower estimates. Mexico City government, which is controlled by López's Obrador party, said 90,000 people took part. Mexico's Congress on Wednesday approved a major overhaul of the National Electoral Institute, an independent body which López Obrador has attacked as corrupt and inefficient. Now moving on with news on tonight's Sri Lanka Sky Warriors. We focus on the excellence of the Aeronautical Engineering Wing of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
Sri Lankan Sky Warriors.
Out of the 3 services in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lanka Air Force is entrusted with the responsibility of safeguarding the airspace and the sovereignty over Sri Lanka. In carrying out this important task, the Director Aeronautical Engineering, who is the head of the Directorate of Aeronautical Engineering, is responsible to the Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force in servicing and the maintenance of the whole aircraft fleet. In Sri Lanka Air Force, to maintain the operational readiness. Under the Directorate of Aeronautical Engineering, the technical engineering officers and the aero tradesmen perform duties in different disciplines to achieve the main objective of maintaining fully serviceable and mission-capable aircraft to meet the routine and operational commitments.
සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වාහනයක රෙපෑ එකක් කරනවා වගේ නෙමෙයි ගුවන් යානයක නඩත්තු කටයුත්තක් ආවොත් ඒක කරන්න වෙනම කලාවක් වෙනම ක්‍රමවේදයක් වෙනම තාක්ෂණයක් තිබෙනවා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගුවන් හමුදාවේ බෙල් වර්ගයේ සියලු හෙලිකොප්ටර් යානාවල ප්‍රධාන නඩත්තු කටයුතු සියල්ලක්ම සිදු වෙන්නේ මේ ස්ථානයේ තවත් විදිහකට කියනවා නම් මේක අති විශාල ගෑරේජ් එකක් කුඩා ඇනේ ඉඳලා සංකීර්ණ එන්ජින් පද්ධතිය දක්වා සියලුම දේවල් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගුවන් හමුදාවේ ඉංජිනේරුවරුන් සහ තාක්ෂණික නිලධාරීන් අතින් මෙම ස්ථානයේදී යලි සැකසෙනවා මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගුවන් හමුදාවේ ගුවන් යානා ඉංජිනේරු පක්ෂාංගය
The Aeronautical Engineering Wing is probably considered as one of the most vital arteries in the Sri Lanka Air Force. The repair and engineering work done by this crucial unit of the Sri Lanka Air Force saves the country millions of rupees in repair work. Aeronautical Engineering Wing handles repair work for aircraft such as Bell 212, F7, K8 and Y12. Personnel from the Aeronautical Engineering Wing are well trained in repairing and maintaining the Bell 212 and their work saves millions of rupees. At the Aeronautical Engineering Wing, helicopters are completely repaired and it possesses the technical capabilities which is required. Aircraft control system parts are also reconstructed at this location following a very complex process. The Aeronautical Engineering Wing gives a renewed life to the fleet of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
Sri Lankan Sky Warriors.
And now in some news just in, a Gazette notification has been issued declaring public transport services for passengers or goods discharge, carriage, landing, storage, delivery and removal of articles of food or drink or coal, oil, fuel from vessels within any port as essential services with immediate effect. The Gazette signed by the President adds that the provision and maintenance of facilities for transport services by roads, bridges, culverts, airports, ports and railway lines are also essential services. Now, taking a look at that news alert again, a Gazette notification has been issued declaring public transport services for passengers or goods discharge, carriage, landing, storage, delivery and removal of articles of food or drink or coal, oil, fuel from vessels within any port as essential services with immediate effect. And now in a sports news, a Court of Appeal issued an interim injunction order on the regulations imposed on the sports by the Minister of Sports.
A writ application filed by Sri Lanka Cricket against the Sports Minister's regulation was taken up for examination in the presence of Justices Bandula Karunaratne and MAR Marikka. The court today imposed an interim order preventing the Sports Minister from implementing the regulations until proceedings in the case are completed. The petition is scheduled to be heard again on the 22nd of June.
And that's a wrap of Prime Time News here on TV1. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, take care and have a good night.